You know, I grew up in a religious home, but I wasn't saved. So I joined the military. I spent 14 years in the military. About halfway through, I gave my life to the Lord. After 14 years, God called me to get out of the military and to come back to Calvary St. Pete, to where I got saved. I worked in town a little bit, then I was asked to come on in a maintenance role. So I did that job for a couple of years, and in that time, God really spoke to my heart, talked to me about the need of foster care, the need of the orphans in this community. Started that ministry of 4 kids, and a few years later, I was asked to come on as a pastor. One day, I just decided to get up the courage to go ask Danny, hey, what are we doing in foster care? And he looked at me and he said, find out. And I figured the best way to find out was to go ahead and become a foster parent.
Tom comes to me and he says, Deb, I think we need to pray about doing foster care. And I thought, what? This is insane. So we had 4 kids at that time. The oldest was 5 and the youngest 9 months old. I really wrestled with this. I did not want to do it at this time. I remember going to bed and I remember praying and I remember just wrestling all night with God. It was excruciating, but God really broke my heart at that time for the orphans out there, and I just knew that He was moving us to do it.
We went through the training, we got licensed, and we fostered 9 children. 2 of those children that we fostered were twins.
We get a call and they ask if we want these twins, and of course I say yes. And so they come to the house and they deliver them their little car seats. They were born at 29 weeks at approximately 2.5 pounds apiece. They were 3 months old and still 6 pounds. They were at the failure to thrive level, and they came with a bag of medicines and severe reflux where they couldn't even keep anything down all night. So Tom and I really had our work cut out for us.
Their mom had tested positive for various drugs. She had been drinking while she was pregnant. She had a severe renal failure, and so she needed 16 hours of dialysis a week, and she wasn't getting any of it. The mom also had HIV, and they give her drugs to keep the virus away from the children while the children are in utero. She wasn't taking the drugs. These children were born, they were in neonatal intensive care for 6 weeks. It's a desperate situation when we got the kids. We were just praying, my wife especially was really seeking the Lord. How do we bring health to these children? How do we restore these children to you? We know that you're gonna do it, but we also know that you put them in our home because you're gonna work through us. So, Lord, what's your plan? And Deb was just extremely diligent. She was so wonderful taking care of those children. 2 years later, I go to a conference in Orlando, and I'm talking with some of the people who are the higher ups in foster care. And I told them the story of Justin and Jeremiah. And this one lady's face just turned ashen, and she looked at me. She said, Justin and Jeremiah, and she gave their last name. And I was shocked. I was like, yes, how do you know? And she told me, she goes, those children were supposed to die. There was a mix-up in the paperwork, and they were supposed to go to a hospice home and die because they were so bad off. There was nothing that we could do for these children. Mistake or God's divine providence? We saw God save these children. We saw Him intervene. They were not supposed to be alive. And then they had this disease, this HIV. But we kept taking them back to the doctors, and God allowed this disease to be removed from their bodies. They no longer have HIV. And then 2.5 years later, the mom dies. And then the father signs over his parental rights. And now they're up for adoption. And God allows us, He blesses us so much to be able to now bring these children into our home. And they're my kids now. God has just blessed me and my beautiful wife, Deborah, with 6 children. Justin and Jeremiah are the youngest of those. They're 7 years old now. And I see how Jesus takes death and He turns it into life. I see how He takes destruction and He makes beautiful things out of it. We are truly blessed.